So good morning, everybody. Jerry Keenan was supposed to come up, so there might be a quick technical issue. So give me a quick second. We'll figure it out. There you go. See, he's a genius. He already figured it out. So what do you
I
need?
didn't realize you want me to come put my camera on right away. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm thinking the old days when Chris started. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Inside Scoop with New Jersey Transit President and CEO Kevin Corbett. Kevin's got a real lot to talk about. I'm so glad everyone is here today. We had a huge press conference just yesterday in Secaucus talking about a lot of bridge work. I know a lot of that is going to impact New Jersey Transit. And Kevin's going to be able to give us all the details on the upcoming New Jersey Transit Capital Program. Kevin has been a terrific friend of the Alliance for Action and the entire industry for many, many years. He's a personal friend as well. Really looking forward to hearing from Kevin, getting more details on the New Jersey Transit Capital Program. And I got to tell you, before I throw the ball over to our new co-chair, Cindy Norfleet, Kevin has done just a tremendous job in turning around New Jersey Transit. You can talk to anyone in the industry. The difference between what you see at New Jersey Transit now compared to what you saw in previous years is really astounding. And it's really because of not only Kevin's leadership, but all the terrific work that his staff has provided for him. So, Kevin, I think you and New Jersey Transit are really doing a terrific job. We're looking forward to working with you. We're looking forward to seeing more work come out of the agency. And obviously, if there's anything we can do, you can count on the Alliance for our support. So with that, I do want to introduce Cindy Norfleet, is another great friend of the Alliance for Action. Cindy is not only a leader at her company, but she is a member of the New Jersey Alliance for Action board of directors. She's also now the new co-chair of the Inside Scoop series. So we'll be seeing a lot more of Cindy, and it's great to have her here. With that, if I can ask Cindy to please turn on her camera and her microphone, and she can do the introduction for Kevin. But Cindy, it's always great seeing you. Thank you for all your help with Van Cleef Engineering, and it's good to see you again.
It's great to see you, Jerry. Great to see everyone here. I've been told that there's no one in state government who works harder than this morning's speaker, and that's Kevin Corbett, President and CEO of New Jersey Transit. The resurgence and renaissance of New Jersey Transit over the past 4 years is due to his unique leadership and that of the team he has put together. Today, New Jersey Transit has over 11,000 employees, and they serve the people of our state who make nearly 950,000 trips a day on its buses, trains, and other commuter vehicles. Kevin has put his substantial private sector and public sector resume to use in revitalizing the largest public transportation system in the country. His job is certainly no small chore, and I believe Kevin will tell you that there's still a lot more to do as New Jersey Transit faces some important milestones ahead. New Jersey Transit will be the beneficiary of both the recently passed federal infrastructure law as well as substantial investment from the state of New Jersey. About 18 months ago, both Kevin and Governor Murphy unveiled New Jersey Transit's first ever strategic and capital plans. That framework is now being executed, and there will be many opportunities for members of this audience to help New Jersey Transit build our important future in mass transportation. One fun fact, did you know that Kevin's experience extends overseas and that he is fluent in Mandarin? As they would say in Mandarin, ni hao for hello, and it's a great pleasure to introduce Kevin Corbett.
And Kevin, if you can please turn your microphone on, we'll be happy to bring you up. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I forgot something. Let me please say thank you to all of our sponsors for making today possible. So I'm going to give Penny a little break, and there we go. If we can roll with this, and this was completely a problem on my end. So thank you, Penny, for being up to the challenge. Major funding provided by GPI, a nationally recognized engineering firm that has been working to better our communities by providing high quality engineering and construction services for over 50 years. Engineering, innovative, and state-of-the-art solutions. Parsons, our New York, New Jersey professionals work every day to transform the landscape and improve mobility in the region. PSE&G, PSE&G, we make things work for you. Tony Albergos and Associates Incorporated, a leading strategic planning and lobbying firm building results-driven solutions for private and public sector clients. Van Cleef Engineering Associates, engineering with focus. Since 1972, Van Cleef delivers responsive, innovative, and cost-effective engineering solutions to our valued clients. And Vollers, building the future through long-term commitment, integrity, and excellence. So thank you once again to all of our sponsors. Cindy, thank you for doing such a great introduction for Kevin Corbett. And once again, Kevin, if I could ask you to please turn on your microphone and your camera, we will be ready to begin our program. So we're looking for a great program. We're looking to hear all the great things that New Jersey Transit is putting together for us this year and for the next several years. And we'll be able to learn exactly where we are with the federal infrastructure dollars and what those dollars are going to mean for New Jersey Transit, which is obviously going to make things a lot easier for transit as it continues to move forward on its $17 billion unconstrained capital program. It's part of the New Jersey Transit 10-year strategic plan, which I believe, and Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the first 10-year strategic plan in the history of New Jersey Transit. So, Kevin, it's great to see you, and thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jared, and always, and thanks for that kind introduction. You're so right. It's right now compared to where we were 4 years. I remember when the first time in front of Alliance for Action, we were in a world of pain 4 years ago, and that seemed like a lot of distant memories. A lot to talk about, which I'll get into in a minute. But it's so right about the team we have here at NJ Transit. Those have been with us for years. The new people we added. It's a fun. I almost hate to jinx myself, but it's a fun, exciting time to be here. After several years of pain to get where we are. So it is a different era, and a lot of it I cannot thank you and your members. Jerry, certainly Chris Hartman, Penny, everyone. Thanks for all you've done. Been great partners, and really glad to be here. As you say, last time we were together in person. I'll get into our COVID stats in a second, but it's not the same when we were together in Forest Gate last summer. Certainly I shared a lot of the significant progress we've made over the last 4 years. And I provided sort of the high level overview. You're right. That was this is our first 10-year strategic plan. We've been implementing now our first 5-year capital plan. And I'll give updates on that in a second. And also get into some of the most significant projects, get into some of the details on some of the key projects that were currently underway and that are on the horizon. And with that, we have, speaking of great staff, off on the side, there's Eric DeLeo. And none of you are over having coffee and doing all the important work with him on the side this morning. Sorry about that. And Anthony Greco is running the presentation here. So with that, Anth, we got to start getting into the slides. I think starting off with the COVID impact, it's been really, I think, with no exaggeration, I think the way New Jersey Transit dealt with COVID the last few years has really been a national model. And we've seen that and worked closely with our counterparts parts around the country, around the globe. And then this Omicron, we saw that real significant increase, positive cases that really took off, including obviously affected our employees. And what is amazing is, on January 12th, it hit right before Christmas, and our ridership was turning back up. We were on track for our budget of about 70% of a pre-COVID level on average, higher on bus, less on rail, around 55%, 60% on rail, and 80% on bus, and then boom, it just the bottom fell out and dropped by about 50% of that. Over a couple of days you saw that from December 19th to like the 22nd, as everything shut down. It's amazing that though since then we hit a high on January 12th of 821 transit employees out of roughly 12,000 were positive for COVID, all-time high. Yesterday that number has dropped down to 382 and it's really coming down precipitously. Yesterday we only had 15 from a height of several hundred net positives a day. We only had 15 net positives yesterday, which was back to sort of the summer kind of numbers. So amazingly sharp increase and amazingly sharp drop. We're hoping that starting even next week. My wife works at Rutgers Medical School. They're going back full 5 days a week next week. So hopefully we really see pick up where we left off in November as far as getting people back to work and back on transit. I would point out that you noticed a number of the transit systems around the country really had to curtail service because of the number of employees that were out that they couldn't run service. The MTA obviously they had to shut down certain lines. Even at the worst point, we were running 97% of our scheduled rail service. It was spotty here or there, depending who called out sick or tested positive that day, and 94% for bus and 95% for light rail. So we really, even at the worst peak of it, we were still maintaining a good, reliable service to really keep the economy going, and that reliability that so many of our passengers need, particularly as they're coming back to the service. So this all talks about the hard work we did in rebuilding our workforce, particularly locomotive engineers, but also on the bus side. It also touches on the importance of the federal funding. We would never have been able to have the financial survive this financial hit we've taken for now 2 years. I'm looking ahead for the next year or two's budget without the CARES, CARISA, and ARPA funding that we got from the White House and Congress. So thanks for because of that, and thanks to certainly to our delegation, we're able to keep that. Our aggressive cleaning and disinfection protocols, all that is really benefiting from that funding that we get. Also, I think we'll start getting into the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act. Jerry, you talked about that. I think we can jump to that slide. Is now we start talking about the capital side is our operating with that, not having to, we need to be lean and efficient, but not having to be overly concerned on our day-to-day, operating revenues with that cushion. Really the focus, as you saw during the pandemic, obviously we kept working, Eric and his team, we kept putting out work and doing work, awarding contracts, doing the pre-bid conferences, et cetera. And I think they're really seeing that focus on capital is paid off. And it's now we have that preparation really, I think, is getting a shot in the arm by the bipartisan infrastructure deal signed by the president in November. We've had years of where all the transit agencies were competing against each other for limited available funding that didn't provide enough under the best of circumstances to maintain a state of good repair, much less the ability for system-wide service expansion. You've often heard me refer to it as the transit Hunger Games. And I would say, although we're incredibly grateful for the passage of this legislation, it's important that this funding doesn't come to New Jersey Transit as a big lump sum. People are saying, oh, you're getting all these billions of dollars. I'll talk to that in a second. What it really does, and I think, Diane, also Jerry, I think covered that earlier, just what she's seeing FHWA, we're seeing with FTA and FRA, that federal funding is, that we're saying is over 5 years. And it's taking the baseline of what we had before and adding to that. So it's not that we're getting that many billions of dollars more, it's the same, but on average, our formula funding that we get is approximately $110 million more each year over the next 5 years. $550 million, we're extremely grateful for that, but it's not the billions that people assume that we're getting. But the FTA and the FRA will be dispensing billions of dollars in discretionary competitive grants through this legislation, and we'll be aggressively pursuing all those grant opportunities for which we are eligible. We're still waiting for the eligibility, the program definitions for the different pots and buckets they have there. So we're monitoring that closely. But But overall, there's supposed to be approximately $19 billion over the next 5 years that's been appropriated to passenger and freight rail. So we'll see how that breaks out and what pots we can go after of that 19 billion nationally. Obviously, we're also in the Northeast Corridor. We have our 5-year capital plan, but we also obviously are a key member of the Northeast Corridor Commission. I co-chair that with the head of the FRA, Amit Bose, and we're working closely with them with all the Northeast Corridor projects that are so near and dear to our heart, including Gateway, which I'll talk about in a second. There's additional public transit side. There's approximately over 90 billion of funding opportunities as well that we're also going to be nearly over 100 billion more that we have to see where it goes, and we certainly will track all the opportunities for us to whether it be for safety, climate change, or general modernization, city good repair will be in the mix for all that. And I know there may be some questions about that later. Getting to the next slide, the Hudson Tunnel project, certainly NJTRANSIT, is a prime beneficiary of that, aside from the region's economy, and will be at the forefront of delivering a number of the projects now being prioritized with investments made possible by this landmark legislation. At the top of the list is obviously the Hudson Tunnel project. Governor Murphy has been working on that since we got in, and we've been working closely for the last few years with our partners, Amtrak, the Port Authority, the Gateway Development Commission, to advance those projects. And just last week, I think everyone saw the FTA increase the project's rating to medium high, making the project eligible to receive funding from the FTA's Capital Investment Grant Program. So that's a real shot in the arm to get us as the local sponsors and Amtrak to really get the project moving. I think some of obviously a few months ago in December, the Army Corps of Engineers issued a permit that allows construction for the 2 new tunnels. So you take that together, and that also allows for the rehab of the existing tunnels to start once funding is secured. So, New Jersey Transit and Amtrak were co-applicant for the Corps' permit, which, as I said, was the last major permit we needed before construction could begin. I would say that the work we did with the Port Authority and with our partners going back to August when we submitted to the FTA the new financial plan for this project was what triggered the higher rating. And I think there's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of great staff work to be able to get that in and be able to get that turnaround to get that rating up while we have a favorable Congress, favorable White House. So we certainly don't want to miss the opportunity that we now have. And certainly thank our partners at USDOT. Who are working closely with us, have the same passion for advancing these projects. Going to the next, talking about the tunnel, and there may be some more questions about the tunnel, but of course, the first step as part of the Gateway program was Portal North Bridge, and it's one that we've talked about before, but we were very honored in October, last year, when President Biden spoke at a ceremonial groundbreaking for Portal North Bridge at our Meadows Maintenance Complex in Kearney. I don't think 4 years ago many people would have figured the President of the United States would be coming to visit New Jersey Transit. So it was a pretty big shot in the arm morale-wise for us all. Obviously, Diane, Commissioner Scachetti, myself, the governor, and a select group of officials, even with COVID going, were able to be on hand to commemorate. It really was a momentous occasion for us in the agency. And it is clearly a project of national significance. It's the largest project in a single project in NJT's history, 40-year history. So it's a great source of pride for our team here. And the event followed the board's approval of the $1.6 billion contract for this project. And I think everyone knows that was awarded to Skanska, and a notice to proceed will be issued. The contract's been signed, and notice to proceed will be issued in the coming weeks with construction to begin shortly thereafter. Once construction begins, the contract is expected to take approximately 5.5 years. And again, that is supported by the full funding grant agreement from the FTA, who gave us $766 million towards the project. I think moving to the next slide, speaking of bridges, though, particularly for anybody who's taking the coastline, you'll see it coming along. Our capital plan include many other major projects and that were long stalled and that are now well along and advancing. Last month, we issued a IFB for the second construction contract of Raritan River Bridge. I think you see the work on the approaches. Anybody who goes along, it's coming along very well. Very happy with the progress on that. The work under this, the second contract is the construction of the lift bridge and the flanking spans, pier protection, the communication signals, catenary and associated site work. As I said, the first half of the $248 million contract is now more than 1/3 complete with arms, and a large part of that work is drilling 84 massive shaft foundations, most of which are more than 200 feet deep and 8 feet in diameter. And at the end of 21, just last month, we had completed 57 of those 84 foundations. It's really cool. You go down to the project site and see the progress that's making. Through the release of the IFB for the second construction contract, we're that'll bring us that much closer to having a more resilient Raritan River Bridge for all the coastline customers. And I know those who ride, often compared to where it was 4 years ago. If you're coming from Middletown or Long Branch along the coastline, you'd be, the Raritan River Bridge. Now, Portal Bridge soon under construction. If you're going to New York, you'll be going by key stations. I'll talk about stations in a second, but Elizabeth, Perth, Amboy are, being new stations being built and renovated. So it's really visible to our riders. And I would also say it'd be anything goes wrong now, we have push notifications, our mobile app, a lot of investments in technology. And I'll speak to that in a second, so that how full your train is on board. You can pay a mobile app that's getting scanned now with handheld devices by our train crew. So it really is a very different experience than it was 4 years ago, and it's certainly a lot more to do in that regard. Then go to the next slide is to touch on the bus side. We move pre-COVID more than 500,000 people a day by bus, particularly heavily in North Jersey. So we have a $510 million Northern Bus Garage project that will centralize and increase bus storage and maintenance capacity to better provide more reliable bus service. It will also is being designed to include charging infrastructure necessary to support a transition to 100% zero emission bus fleet, which we're committed to achieving by 2040. And in this past October, our board voted to approve the next phase of the design process for this project, which will bring the design up to 30%. Also in October, our board approved the purchase of 8 electric buses, the first in our agency's fleet, that'll be used for initial deployment in Camden starting this spring. Switching back to other major projects on the rail side, County Yard Delco Lead. We advertised the first construction contract for which is estimated more than $200 million. And just this past December, and bids are anticipated in a few weeks. I think it's February 8th, according to Eric. So we also anticipate advertising the second construction contract for this project in the fourth quarter of this year. As many of you recall, this project provides critical safe haven for rail vehicles, including inspection during extreme weather events and storm surges, and a facility that allows them to be inspected and pressed back into service once the storm has passed. Another project that's certainly is advancing. Then if you're taking the train to Hoboken instead of New York along the coastline or any other, you're going into Hoboken, you'll notice you will have seen along the south side that the Morris Canal is now filled. And that was the first phase of the $195 million long slip project. We're expecting that to be fully completed in the first quarter of 2023. And we're now preparing for the second phase of construction, which includes the construction of 3 ADA accessible platforms that are elevated to support 6 new tracks and other amenities. We plan to advertise that construction in the fourth quarter of this year as well. Some of the less visible and maybe not as sexy in some ways, but critical infrastructure projects that we have going, involve our energy side. This past November, the board approved a contract to advance the $132 million Mason substation project in Kearney. That's right near our MMC facility. And that's a joint development partnership with PSE&G, who has been a great partner in helping really look at all our energy needs, including substations, et cetera. Can talk more about that later if anybody wants to. But we expect this project to be completed this calendar year by December. So that's coming along very quickly. The next project, I think, on the energy field, which is one that's gotten a lot of attention, is advancing our transit grid project. I think that's critically important initiative. People sort of forget Sandy. I think some younger people or put that out of their mind. But for those of us at transit, it's very real. And the need to have that reliable, redundant power supply for our system when the grid goes down. And we've been advancing that in a reimagining this project estimated at $577 million to provide that reliable power to the key segments of our rail system and facilities to ensure that we can continue that mobility when the power is interrupted. Great opportunity for a P3 partnership. And our goal is to maximize use of renewables and clean energy technology, consistent with Governor Murphy's Energy Master Plan, while still meeting the reliability and power needs for the system. Last March, we sponsored a virtual contractor networking event with the Alliance, Jerry, and thanks very much for helping us pull that off, where the interested contractors and developers heard about the project firsthand and were able to network and explore opportunities for partnership. That worked well. We've seen what's happened over the last year, and we have now issued an RFP to the 4 pre-qualified firms as part of the next phase of the procurement process. So that is right under the way. In fact, yesterday we had a briefing with the teams for that bid. Another more interesting thing that is a little sort of outside the conventional procurement is the Meadowlands Transitway project. It came out of our innovation challenge back in 2019. Diane Scachetti really was a driving force behind that, and we're pleased to say that in this past August, our board approved a $3.5 million contract with HNTB for the concept phase of this project, which will really help us implement the environmentally friendly transit access between Secaucus and the Meadowlands Sports Entertainment Complex to be able to increase the total flow of passengers per hour. Right now, we max out at close to 10,000 an hour, 8 to 10,000. We did a great job at the Army-Navy game. Our team really aced it, but we look at the future demand, need to look at how we can do that. And I think the Innovation Challenge has been a great way of seeing how we can advance something that is not part of our day-to-day routine transit, programs. I think we can jump to the stations, and I think part of the infrastructure, is the nuts and bolts, but at the same time, recognize the need to invest in our facilities, for our customers. It is about them. And the stations and terminals, which is our, customers get their first impression. We're putting a lot of money into that in our capital plan for those who are looking at it. I think one of the prime examples of this is Newark Penn Station. This month, our board approved a contract with Parsons Transportation Group as part of the restoration, renovation, and modernization of Newark Penn. As you may recall, the governor last year committed $190 million to restore this historic facility as one of the crown jewels of New Jersey, and certainly the gateway for so many visitors coming to New Jersey and to Newark. This contract is for phase 1 of the master planning, conceptual, preliminary, and final design, as well as construction assistance services for this transformational project. And it will allow Parsons and its team, including Grimshaw and others, of architects and engineers to build an extensive renovation. We've already started a number of things that we could move by ourselves to get moving in the restoration, sort of the low-hanging fruit that we can undertake ourselves. But the bigger picture is really coming down the line, and I think there'll be a lot more to be seen as that progresses. Another major facility for us is the Trenton Transit Center. Again, this month, our board approved a contract with AECOM to provide full design services and construction support the canopy platform accessibility work at the transit center. This is all part of a $29 million project funded largely through an FRA grant that Eric and his team really did a phenomenal job of submittal. That FRA said, was one of the best presentations they had for in a competitive grant environment. So we hope that skill will benefit us going forward elsewhere, but in future projects. But really will make Trenton Transit Center, accessibility a lot more convenient, particularly down on the platform level, and address a lot of the ADA issues. Also, speaking on South Jersey, down in Camden, we have the Walter Rand Transportation Center, another major overhaul. We advanced, last October when we awarded a contract to HNTB to begin the design process for a new facility to replace the existing Walter Rand in Camden. Contract is for conceptual design, preliminary final engineering, and again, construction assistance services related to it. Again, this project, for those who've been Walter Rand, is long overdue for modernization and enhancing a number of aspects of that facility for improve the customer experience, as well as really make it more integrated in the connectivity to Camden's growing healthcare, education, and employment sectors in the neighborhood. Another project that is recently been awarded it was again last November. The board approved the contract for a $63 million Perth Amboy station, which will be construct 2 high-level platforms and make many station improvements to provide full accessibility for our Perth Amboy rail customers. And we anticipate a groundbreaking for that in the spring. And it's as you go along any of our rail lines, you just see the TOD experience, the number of housing developments that go around, our transit communities and our stations. Another one example of that is Lyndhurst Station. That's currently underway. That started, we broke ground on that last April. That's a $32 million project. And that's a new station building that will be fully accessible as well. And going along the Northeast Corridor, again, I think many of you, much to I know Mayor Bolliger's pleasure of the great progress we're making on the $71 million Elizabeth Station project along the Northeast Corridor. That construction, the first phase of the high-level platforms, which are being rebuilt, and extended to improve the convenience and accessibility, is scheduled to be completed in the summer this year. And then we expect the construction to be completed on the full station by the summer of 23. Going on from some of the brick and mortar projects, also equipment is important. May not be as exciting for some of the Alliance members, but it's critical for our reliability for our customers. And part of that program, the fleet replacement program, 2 of the 25 new dual mode locomotives arrived last year, and continue our efforts to have that mechanical reliability and operational flexibility. As you know, some of the lines, like the Raritan Valley line or Pascack Valley or Port Jervis line or different parts of the M&E where we don't have a catenary, we need to be able to switch to diesel mode, and having the engines that can be both diesel and have the pantograph so they can run in electric mode. Those are very valuable pieces of equipment, and we're in the process of receiving the balance of those 25 over this year and into early next year. And then starting in 2024, you've heard me talk, over the last few years, how we ordered 113 new self-propelled multi-level rail cars, the ones that are popular with the 2x2 seating, but the current ones all need an engine to be pulling them. These are like our Comets, have be able to be self-propelled when they're in catenary, in electric mode. And that brings a lot of advantages, and we'll be taking delivery of those starting in 2024. On the bus side, we have more than 300 new buses have been delivered over the last 2020 and 2021, last few years. Obviously improves our reliability. The average age of the fleet comes down, as well as the overall experience for millions of our bus customers, every day, every year. And there's a whole benefits of getting that sweet spot of having reducing the average age of your bus fleet, from reliability, maintenance, we're working on both the bus and rail side to make sure that we get that fleet in the right sweet spot as far as the average age. I think the next slide, we look at these projects overall and how far we've agencies come over the past 3 years. As you touched on, Jared, it's 2017 we had approximately 60 million hard money contracts out on the street. Since 2018, we have more than $4 billion in projects that have been awarded or underway, and improving that service and supporting the state's economic recovery following the pandemic. And I don't need to tell you and the members of just how important these investments are as job creators and economic multipliers that benefit so many of our companies and our neighbors throughout the state. That pays back many times beyond just the face value of those contracts. I think the task order contract, speaking of getting work out, and some of you have heard me say it before, we have to get the money we get from Congress or from Trenton, or from the fare payers, is to show that the money they give us is being well spent, and that we really know how to deliver as quickly as possible. So it's easier to go back and ask for more when people can really see that you're making substantive progress. And I think to stay agile and accelerate additional station and facility work, particularly the engineering and design work, we felt we need to get out ahead of the curve as that federal money's coming. And Eric and his team, Rich Schaefer, really put together, released a number of capital programs, task orders throughout the year. And our task order contract program involves multiple contracts issued by NJTRANSIT to secure the service of the consultants up front to help us implement the capital plan. So in the past 6 months, we've put nearly $2 million in design services task orders out on the street to accelerate the various facility improvements and to kickstart progress on the capital plan. Rich is doing a lot of work trying to standardize design, be able to make it easier rather than have each station necessarily be a bespoke effort and single effort. And we see that the task order consultant contracts is a lot more than just inspections in the field and design assistance. We are moving towards an environment where our design will be easier to implement and faster to deliver. So, you should have Rich Schaefer come and speak more about that, but they are, to the extent possible, being standardized and known to the construction community, reducing the bid risk and enhancing our ability to better maintain the infrastructure assets after they're built. When I first came here, we were building 7 substations with 7 different designs. In the future, we're looking at a capital infrastructure engineering group where we plan to move in an environment where designs are consistent to the extent practicable across projects like these. And the next task order program to help us move forward to that goal is the vehicle we're going to be using to do so. The next slide, just to touch on, I think as we're coming to wrap up, again, doing business with NJTRANSIT for anybody who's interested on more information on these projects and other details about how to participate. You go to njtransit.com, hover over the about and our agency, and then click on doing business. And there you can navigate the procurement, find our procurement calendar, upcoming capital program opportunities, various PowerPoint presentations. So please take advantage of that if you haven't already. The next slide is something that's as we're coming out of sort of putting out where we're in crisis, really looking for something that may not be so much a bid opportunity for a number of the members, Chair, but I think you really look at the key parts of advancing billions of dollars in these construction projects and vehicle purchases is not just taking them one by one, is making the additional forward-looking investments in technology. And not just like with PTC being critical to improving safety or communications and the customer experience, as important as that is, and as much progress as we've made, certainly on the customer-facing side of communications, and the technology behind it. But more and more, we really see technology being integrated, not just in each project or the programs, but it's our facilities, our equipment, the projects themselves, but also being dynamically integrated and interactive with our operations. So our rail and bus people can see everything live and not just, reacting to data or information as it comes in after the fact. And I think when you look to the future, we're participating and actively looking at different technologies. Certainly the autonomous or self-driving vehicles potentially adding the first mile, last mile option for customers. We're expecting delivery of shuttle vehicles for road testing in the first quarter of this year, assisted by Rutgers Kate and Infratech, a Princeton Junction firm that works with Rutgers. Ongoing updates to the website and mobile app to improve access to customer information, including the How Full Is My Ride app that I touched on earlier. Video analytics pilots that we're working on all modes of transportation help us learn things about how the passenger behavior and flow in and through the stations in real time, as well as areas that may be experiencing crowding. The other thing that ties in that many of you are aware of that's to me is critical is the enterprise asset management system that allows us to balance our capital and operating investments in order to maximize the life cycle value of all our assets. All of this requires significant upgrades in our internal IT software and various platforms throughout the organization. Our software and related platforms were 50% obsolete or soon to be obsolete when I arrived at NJTRANSIT in 2018. We have a long way to go. We're made up, but we still have a long way to go to really be best in class on technology. I do think, though, if you've been riding the system, you will note that we quickly advanced the contactless fare collection technologies throughout our system in light of the pandemic. We really took opportunity of the pandemic to get labor fully on board. And so in November, we completed the installation of 558 new high-tech ticket vending machines throughout the system. We introduced Easy Wallet, our electronic fare option for our Access Wing paratransit service for those riders to be able to pay electronically. Our onboard bus validators are being installed system-wide, and as I say on the trains, I think you see everyone now using the handheld mobile devices that have now deployed system-wide. So I think if you look at modern transportation companies, are best managed when their executives are working with accurate real-time data from all aspects of their business, and that is certainly what we're striving for. I would have to say also in the environment technology, cybersecurity becomes ever more critical. I think I've mentioned, now at the U.S. Naval Academy, as a number of you know, I'm involved down there. The number one major at the Academy is cybersecurity. And I think all of us are aware of the risks, what happens when you get hacked. I think we've seen some really clear examples of that in various transit systems around the country, ransomware, et cetera, malware. So that's why I'm proud that last year, New Jersey Transit became the first transit agency in the country to achieve the International Standards Organization, ISO, certification for cybersecurity last year. And that was just renewed this year. So it's something our team really takes seriously. So I think the last thing really is coming up is to thank you, everyone in the Alliance, for your support. The last 4 years, it's been fantastic. Really excited about the next 4 years. And, if you have any doubt about the difference that your support has made, let me dispel that. It was great. Absence, efforts by the Alliance and others like you. I don't think we would have gotten the support in Congress to pass a bill like the bipartisan IIJA. And despite the boost, I think note of caution I put out, despite the boost we're getting from this federal funding from Washington over the next 5 years, we still have a gap and we still need more to keep growing, to keep that support moving forward, to keep the momentum that we have now so we don't slip back sort of the bad old days. And there's a reason that these pictures of the Capitol building are in the PowerPoint here, as a reminder of where we need to keep our focus when it comes to getting funding, future funding. So look forward to working with all of you in the coming months and year as we continue on the mission to really make New Jersey Transit the world-class transit system, our customers and New Jerseyans expect and deserve. So with that, thanks. Any of these things, again, can be particularly the capital and strat plans, or just look at njtplans.com. You can also visit njtransit.com/progress to see a comprehensive list of what we've accomplished over the 4 years. So you'll be able to look both at what we've accomplished, the While You've Been Away campaign, and then also what the projects we have going forward. So with that, Jared, I hope I didn't put everyone to sleep. I'll turn it back over to you.
Absolutely not, Kevin. Thank you very, very much. Great presentation. I have a couple of questions, but I was wondering, do you have a little time? Can we take some
Sure.
questions, not only for me, but also? So if you do have a question for Kevin Corbett, please put it in the chat. Just let Chris and the staff know that you have a question, you'd like to speak with Kevin, and we'll push the button and bring you up onto the virtual stage, and you'll be able to speak one-on-one with Kevin. Before we get to the questions, I do want to say one more time, thank you for our co-chairs for this event. I mentioned Cindy Norfleet, who is the managing director and COO of Van Cleef Engineering, and also Dean Angelakos, who is the vice president for business development and governmental relations for Infinite Consulting Corporation. So thank you to each of you for being such supporters of this program and being our co-chairs. So again, if you do have a question for Kevin, just put it in the chat. We'll bring you up. But I have a couple of questions, Kevin. You mentioned the additional dollars that are going to be coming to New Jersey Transit through the federal infrastructure dollars. And we're talking about $110 million or so per year for the next 5 years, on top of the normal and traditional formula funding that we get from the feds. How much do we normally get from the federal government in those formula dollars per year, just so we can get an idea of how much a difference this is actually?
Good question. And it's around about $500 million a year. So that kicks us up. I don't know, it's 486, a number that's, but it's about 50, that increase to $500 million of our total formula of those funds. It's I think about a 50% increase of what we get from that program. So the total is about 500 million.
So if you're talking about 500 million a year normally, and another 110 coming in because of the new program, you talk a little more than 20% in additional funding per year.
That's right.
Over next. So what is that when you look at your capital program? What things maybe you weren't going to be able to do in these next 5 years, but now that you have another 20% in funding coming your way, you'll be able to do? What do you know? What projects that are going to get more attention now because of these additional funds?
Yeah, and some of those, Jared, depends. What we are with. There's local match involved, but generally, it's a lot of the projects I talked on, particularly the. Like the stations, the stuff that I mentioned that Rich and his team that we have ready to go, that we have in the backlog. So we have, we can get that work out quick. So it's accelerating the stuff that's in the, our existing plans. A lot of those ones I touched on. The bigger individual projects usually have, their own like CIG application, but for a lot of our data good repair maintenance, those you'll see a lot of that going to those kind of projects.
Now, again, if you do have a question for Kevin, please put it in the chat. We'll bring you up and you can speak with Kevin. So I do want to introduce a man who needs no introduction. We all know him. We all love him. Dale Errico from Railroad Construction joins us, and Dale has a question for Kevin. Dale, it's always an honor to see you. It's a terrific friend over the years. Hell of a hitter on the golf course, too, I got to say. But go ahead. You're on with Kevin Corbett.
Very good, Kevin. Great job as always. Very impressive. And thank you for all that you do. Eric, he does okay as well. So, but great job.
Yeah, neither Eric or I have your golf game, Dale.
And of course, and everything, go U.S. Navy and everything. So
thank you, sir.
There you go. But anyway, back to business and everything. The quick question, obviously something near and dear to my heart, the Meadowlands, bringing the rail line back into the system. Railroad actually did the first leg, bringing it in there with the station, and obviously always of great interest, looking for means of methods of bringing it back into Sea Caucus. I saw Diane and the governor yesterday speaking about the Route 3, about putting the rail line in there as possibility of that. And I just like to, see where that direction is and, how far out that may be, if you're able to speak about that.
Sure. Glad to. I think there are a number of things sort of, in that space. One is I touched on the innovation challenge that looks to, capitalize on serving the Meadowlands complex, and that's underway. As I said, with the HNTB, I think, on the lead on that. Then we have the certainly also for the Northeast Corridor as part of phase 2 of the project. Is the Bergen Loop. One is getting the tunnel, which is critical that we get the tunnel, following up on Portal Bridge. But for New Jersey to really benefit from these billions of dollars investment, it's not just so Amtrak can get more trains, inner city trains. It's really by getting us having more trains, and the tunnel is a big help as far as the reliability and increasing some capacity. But the real economic benefit for New Jersey is going to come with the expansion of Penn Station in New York, so we can get more trains per hour in when those tunnels are complete. But the other thing is for North Jersey on the rail side is the Bergen Loop, being able to get the services currently that terminate in Hoboken, and we have to change to Secaucus. They'll have a one-seat ride for riders in the rail side from North Jersey, as well as New York west of Hudson. So both on the light rail side, both for Secaucus and Meadowlands that we're looking at, and I think we're looking at 2026 for that to be able to award the innovation challenge. The goals for 2026. I would also mention a little bit further east, but in that same space is the northern branch expansion of the Hudson-Bergen light rail. Up to Englewood is also a project that's in our capital plan, and that is we think will be highly rated by the FTA as far as scoring well. We expect that to score well when we apply for competitive grants for that.
Very good. Great. Thank you as always. Look forward to it. Be safe.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dale. And again, if you have a question for Kevin, just put it in the chat. We are going to go briefly to Shihab Quran, but first I wanted to, you mentioned it a little bit, and speaking with Diane Scicchetti a week or so ago, she mentioned along Route 3, I guess the phrase is super light rail. Is that the phrase, Kevin? And it was pretty interesting. If you could talk a little bit about what that means and why it's maybe a thing of the future that you're going to be looking into.
Yeah, I think, there are various names where they call it super light rail. I think one of the things we're involved, really made an effort the last few years, and I'm the North American representative amongst the transit agencies with the international, it's called the Union Internationale de Transport Public, is based in Brussels, but where we really look at best practices around the world, Europe, Asia, share with our peers. And we look at different light rail systems and the flexibility. So there are various names for it, but it's really looking for some of these right-of-ways. How do we maximize it? And I think that came through in our, in the innovation challenge for the Meadowlands. We're certainly looking, the work we're doing with the Greenway, with, working with Essex County, Brendan Gill and others. You saw the announcement from the governor on that. All of that's taking the old NS right-of-way and, making that for sort of rails with trails, but it's also being designed so that we'll be able to look at being able to take, more minimally impactful light rail services, or transit services along those underutilized or, basically abandoned routes. So you don't have the whole issue of condemning property and taking, eminent domain and assembling, that's obviously extremely difficult to do in a densely populated state and region of northern New Jersey. So I think we're looking to see how we can maximize those opportunities.
Terrific. If you have a question for Kevin, please put it in the chat and we'll bring you on. I do want to welcome in Shihab Quran. Shihab is with Power Edison. He's got a question about obviously something, a real big wave of the future. You spoke about it, Kevin, and it's coming our way. It's going to be a great opportunity for many of the people on this call today. So Shihab, the floor is yours. Shihab, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Maybe we had an issue with the Microsoft Teams before. There we go. I hear you now. Yes.
There you go. What?
And I just lost you again, Shihab. I'm sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Chris Hartman from our office to give you a call, and maybe he can help you walk through it, and we'll bring you back. But in the meantime, let me ask you, Kevin, again. You have all right. So Chris is going to reach out to Shihab. Kevin, you have all this work going on. You have the New Jersey Transit Transit Center in Trenton. You have the Walter Rand Transit Center now coming up in Camden. You know, a number of these developments are going up across the state. When you see something, particularly in light of COVID, how is COVID impacting the use of not only the transit centers but all the train stations? I do remember that buses were very slow to come back. Transit is coming back more quickly, but are we back to how far are we away from reaching pre-pandemic numbers again on both transit, on both rail and bus?
Yeah, good question, Jeremy. If I knew the future, I'd be at the betting window at the racetrack. But we were encouraged what we saw with our projections right up through, right before Christmas. We were at about, as I said, budget-wise, we're 70%, which is what we had projected in our budget for this past, the current fiscal year that we're coming in the home stretch on. For next year, we projecting 75% average. So, and I think, we'll see how quickly Omicron was sort of a punch in the gut. I think people were starting to go out and about. We were doing all the, functions. So we'll see how quickly you bounce back. I mean, we're ready. We're doing sanitizing. We have clinical, independent surveys, of customer satisfaction and what issues are happy or not with. A very robust surveys of tens of thousands of our customers. And customer satisfaction is up. People are feeling comfortable and safe riding us. And our employees feel safe. We're very, concerned, obviously, to make sure our employees are, healthy and safe. We just saw the bill that passed for any assaults, for example, on any of our crews. That's important, that we protect our employees and frontline employees particularly. And so we're in good shape. And it's just really, I think it particularly it's the New York market. I think the new mayor there made the comment that, New York can't survive on 30% office occupancy, that they need to get people back. I think, focus on crime. Obviously, New York, crime is, COVID aside, can be a deterrent for some people on mass transit. We, touch wood, we have a great police department under Chris Trusillo. So we don't have any major problems, but, we're working with communities. Obviously, the homeless issue in some of these is a challenge, particularly in the cold months. So we're really putting a lot of effort on that to make it as attractive and convenient where, there, but for the grace of God goes I. So we want to make sure we help any of, our fellow citizens who are down on their luck or need services, but we're not, geared as our stations to handle that service. So we're working with different outreach groups and, RPD and other PDs to really, humanely do that. So we're ready for people to come back. And I think it really is going to be, as I mentioned, Rutgers goes back the full 5 days next week. I think people are COVIDed out. And I think quickly Omicron, a lot of our people were actually saying, boss, I feel fine. I tested my kids. I had to get tested positive because my kids are getting to school. They got tested positive. Can I come back? I said, no, it was first 10 days and then reduced to 5 days. So, touch wood, it seems, obviously if it's just you, one person, it's critical. So it's not to make it any less seriously. But I think we're really hopefully between that, the Pfizer pill, et cetera, really the end of the impact. So I think really look forward to seeing, people getting back to routine, getting back to offices, particularly the New York market will be important. And tourism coming back too. This summer, international tourism, when does that pick up? All those things. It's not just the tourists, but it's all the jobs, the stadium, restaurant workers, et cetera, that all.
Well, let's go now to Ehab Abdelhak from Burns and McDonnell. He's got a question about the transit grid project. Ehab, if I could ask you to please put your camera on, a microphone. There you go. How you doing, Ehab? Nice to see you.
Good. How are you? Thanks.
Very well.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for the great presentation. Just wanted to get a little more insight about the current status of the NJ Transit Grid project. I know you mentioned that an RFP was sent out for all pre-qualified bidders. Is this going to be it's going to be bid out in phases? I know you also said that you're looking for a P3 partnership. Is that something that you're still looking for and found in those 4 qualified bidders?
Yeah, I have to be. I have to be very careful. It's an active procurement, so really can't speak much to it other than the fact, yes, we were looking P3 element in there. And those, the 4 pre-qualified firms, their teams, they're all looking at different ways to approach where it can, try to minimize the carbon footprint of the project, both currently and going forward. That's one of the key goals, and we're looking forward to see, what we did the briefing actually yesterday for the team, so we're looking to see what proposals come in. But right now that's about the most I can say about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ehab. Let's try again. Let's bring Shiham back in. Shihab, we do have your question if for some reason your audio doesn't work, but if you could turn on your camera and microphone again, we'll give it another shot. Hi, Shihab.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Very brief, very little. I can hear you, but it's tough.
Okay, that's well, my question. Okay. Thanks, Kevin, for the presentation. My question is about the electrification of the buses. If you can speak more about that program and what the future brings us.
Yeah, sure. I think you've probably heard me over the last few years where we're want to be aggressive in one sense, but we also want to be prudent and careful. It's sort of balancing. There's a tremendous political pressure, understandable, from the environmental community, from the people who are concerned about asthma and health and all those things that really reducing carbon footprint. Transportation is, one of the big components overall, although actually New Jersey Transit is less than 1% of the total. Transit still, even if it's, diesel trains or diesel buses, it's still the, most, the lowest carbon footprint per passenger, but clearly in line with the governor, 2040, and that's we're around the corner, in real term when you look at major capital investments. So we are looking at upgrading all our existing garages around the state, as well as the Northern Bus Garage I spoke to make sure that they can handle the loads. And we have approximately 2,500 buses. We're one of the largest bus fleets in the country. So it's, sometimes appreciate the passion of the environmental community. But as, I often say, it's not like a building that has 2,500 apartments and you just go out and buy 2,500 toasters, plug it in the wall, and it's all easy. I mean, the infrastructure, electrical infrastructure that goes with that is tremendous, and start thinking on a statewide. If you start putting in school buses, people's cars, and what does that mean? The utilities can tell you what that kind of billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure investments that entails. But just for ourselves, certainly with the depots, even the facility we did down in Camden, our bus depot there, relatively modest, and that required a substation upgrade just for the dozen buses that we're putting in, in the demo project down there. So, at the Newton Garage. So more to come on that, but that is both Northern Bus Garage. We're also interested in, see what goes on, other alternative energy sources. That's where we participate nationally, with APTA, International UITP, to see, hydrogen, et cetera. But clearly, we want to aggressively go. But a cautionary note that while we're doing it in phases and start one garage with, we've seen some places like Albuquerque, Indianapolis, even SEPTA, where, people went out and they bought a whole batch of buses, and then the buses couldn't meet the expectations, and then that causes a backlash. So we want to make sure whatever we do it phased in a way that'll expand exponentially once we know that we have a really sound system, both on the fleet and being able to charge the vehicles.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Shihab. Always great seeing you. I'm glad you're able to join us here today. Let's go over to Andy Paluri. Andy is with WSP USA. Shihab, you can turn your camera and microphone off. And Andy, if you can please turn your microphone and camera on, we'll be able to bring you in and you can ask a question to Kevin Corbett, who is the president and CEO of New Jersey Transit. Andy, there, Chris?
Yes, I believe Andy had to sign off.
Okay.
So, yeah,
all
but
right.
he did send in a question.
I'll read his question. Let's see. He says,
I usually catch Andy and Dean Angelakos on the way in. See, this is virtual stuff, and it's not the same, Jeff.
Andy wrote his question. How will the $110 million in additional funding help fund the West of Hudson program for New Jersey Transit? And what's Transit's overall plan to move this project forward?
Well, I think West of Hudson, that really, sort of piggybacks on what I said earlier on, we have a whole batch of, there's two aspects of West of the Hudson. One is, sort of the trans Hudson, everything we're doing with Gateway and related trans Hudson capacity. But the West of Hudson from a rail side, there's a whole batch of individual projects, both with our West of Hudson Service Center and the capital plan. And then there's where I spoke to, longer term with the Bergen Loop and the other projects related phase 2 of Gateway, or that are related for us to reach the full potential of the Gateway investments. What other investments that we have to make West of Hudson that, we really can maximize these billions we're putting into the Gateway.
Okay, that's right. Let's go now. We have a representative from AT&T on with us now, Pura Panchal. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, Pura, but if you could please turn your camera and microphone on. We have time for a couple of more questions for Kevin Corbett. So I do see Purav. How you doing, pal?
Good, Jerry. Thank you. And you got it right. It's Purav, so it's pretty clear.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, Kevin, I really appreciate the insights here. Thanks for all that, and especially with a lot of the plans that you talked about. But I wanted to ask about, besides the new construction and the bids that are out there, what other, for the existing critical infrastructure as it's tied to some of the federal funding, what are some of the emerging technologies that you're planning to leverage? I know we've kind of helped across with 5G, being leveraged for some of the connectivity, but also automated vehicles and also things that are relevant to safety and climate change. So just trying to understand, besides these big projects, is there, like you said, the not sexy stuff to ensure infrastructure? How are the plans going for that?
Yeah, Purav, I'm glad to talk a bit about it. I think I touched on that, about the importance of technology in everything we do, and even whether it be from cybersecurity right end, integrated in everything we do. And I think certainly AT&T, John Sheehan, thanks for helping us out at down at Secaucus. But more and more you see everything being integrated. So if you're Jim Sincaglia in our rail group, you're hearing a train is having a problem, you can monitor it remotely. You dive right in. I mean, you go to your manager, but if you can't, at least you can see. You have cameras, on board, be able to see, and at the stations, is there crowding? Is there an incident? Is it mechanical? Is there a police action? All those kind of things that just real time. And then the data you get from the loading with the the scanners and the fare collection. Okay, who's getting on? What stops? How do we alter our routes, or where are we seeing surges, so we can try to have swing space when we have the resources operationally that we do by and large now, to be able to provide optimal service at peak times. And how do you adjust and tweak? All that is the world of data has exploded, and then how do you really synthesize that and integrate it is a challenge. Lukman Fazal, who's our CIO, and his team have been doing really good work of, instead of it being a standalone, like here's everything else and here's technology, it's got to be integrated, everything, from my computer screen right here, right down to the train, the bus, the yards, all that, so that, and that's going to be a tremendous effort. I think I mentioned the number of systems we have that were antiquated, that, there were languages that people weren't even supporting. So we had to have people, who still knew how to, do Java or whatever. So I think, really put an ambitious investment plan, both in what we do internally, really staffing up appropriately here, but also what we rely on from our private sector partners. And then on the capital, what's sort of operating costs to be able to make sure we run efficiently. And that'll pay back dividends, just like any private company. You make those, if I'm going to invest, $100 million in IT, okay, where's the payback on that? And I think we're really doing a good job of those things. So I would there are a whole batch of components in that. I mentioned enterprise asset management ties into that as well. So we encourage you to touch base with Lukman and his team, and certainly Eric Leo and a lot of stuff that's being and his team, what we're looking to implement on the project side.
Thank you. Looking forward to that. We'll look to get with Lukman on that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pura. We have time for one more question. Let's go to Todd Hewer from IBW Local 164. IBW 164 is one of the probably the most members of any IBEW local in the state. You can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong, Todd, but it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You're on with Kevin Corbett.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you? I just
Good, Todd. Good to see you.
wondering on the current trajectory for the tunnel and for the grid project. How long do you figure before we get a shovel in the ground on either one of those projects? I know
you saw my approach on Portal to get that going, and we're glad that that's, that'll be, physical construction starting very soon on that. On the tunnel, that's more complicated to get, we're looking with Amtrak and Port Authority. How do we do the delivery? It's one thing to have a $12 billion price tag out there, but, how we're going to deliver that, certain components we may do, certain components Amtrak, and then that's under Gateway Development Commission. But the goal is to have that by get the financial award in 23. Get the grant, so by 23 we can go out and have that get construction commencing in 23 or 24. So for the tunnel, and it may sound like a long time, but the complexity of this, I think what we've done on Portal has been a good template and roadmap, both between the FRA, FTA, all the alphabet soup, Port Authority. We really cut our teeth on a lot of those lessons. So I'm hoping that should help us expedite and go through, obviously, what's going to be a major grant application and, the technical capacity. They evaluate us on the financial capacity. I think we've done a good job with that with the Gateway Development Commission. And now we got to demonstrate to Washington, how technically that's going to be delivered. And that's really a lot of the focus in the coming months.
Okay. How about the transit grid project over?
Transit grid is that's another one that I touched on in the presentation. We've got a major grant over $400 million from FTA that we fully that we have noticed. We got to make sure we don't lose that. That's one of the largest grants we've had here. And as I mentioned, this winter so far has been mild, touch wood, but we've seen even last year with Ida, with riverine flood. You look at we cannot take any risk on having that redundancy. But we're trying to make the project to minimize the carbon footprint on it. And that's where I think Eric and his team, John Geithner, really have put together a process, a procurement process that allows, those four major firms to show what they can, there's a lot of projects. A lot of us do that is sort of more of the traditional from my old job was, the curb and gutter kind of projects. And then, God bless them, those are bread and butter when you're in the industry and on the contracting side. But I think this one is really, what I found at NJT is the stuff that really gets your juices flowing are the most complex projects. If you're really, sort of the best in your field, or you think you are, you want to be going up. So, okay, what are the challenges? The simple things, okay, I get it. I can do those. This is an incredibly challenging project. And I think the four teams selected are eager to prove what, we're asking that this year. That final, and then we'll get a schedule and see exactly what creative solutions have come in to try to minimize the carbon load on that project. But we're fully committed to the project.
Fair enough, thank you. Thank you,
Kevin. I'm going to ask you. We have one more question.
I appreciate all the support from labor on all those issues.
Of course, it's always great to see 164 in the house. That's for sure. But we have one more question. I know you're running out of time, but it's a good question. I want to bring in Stephen Jung. Stephen, if you're still with us, if you can please put on your camera and microphone, we'll bring you in for one last question, a quick question you have, but it is a good question. So, Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for a great presentation. So construction industry is experiencing, steeply rising material prices and supply chain issues. So question for you is, inflation is concern for many Asian transit agencies. So how will this affect the future capital projects, and how New Jersey Transit will deal with it? And will this potentially delay any future projects?
No, Steve, one good to see you. Been again, sorry we're not together in person again. Been a while, but thanks for the question. It's critical for everybody, every aspect, not just transit. Everybody in transportation. Key elements of the economy, but obviously inflation. If you don't have your funding doesn't keep pace with inflation, then you've got to cut somewhere or drag out. Prioritize differently or triage differently. But I think it's early in the game for that. My background, my early days of my career were all about logistics. And I think it was interesting that the Port of New York and New Jersey was functioning very well because of the investments made with deepening the channel to 50 feet, raising the Bayonne Bridge, so to get the air draft for the vessel, that kind of thing, the warehouse distribution network, everything that the port did, the intermodal ICTF facilities. So that actually our region came out very well on the logistics side if people had their cargo being delivered to the port of New York, New Jersey. And you saw what happened to the West Coast. So I think some of those things are more temporary in nature, plants that were affected by COVID. We see that key parts components for, say, the new rail cars or for buses or different, so those things, I think my expectation is that those will average out, that somebody said that, oh, this is unprecedented. I'm like, well, if you're ever doing business in Lagos, Nigeria, congestion and third-party things have long been a problem. And there's a lot of ways to approach that. But I think one of the things that we're doing in our contracts, though, and, the commodity prices don't always go up, don't always go down, right? So it's, do we put in, they say on the steel, do we put in a clause that lets people, have that separate and then price the steel? And then if they want to hedge, fine. If not, but as they adjust it, but once they adjust, do we get the benefit if it goes down? Then we get the benefit of it going down again. So we're not paying necessarily at the highest price for that commodity, or you're putting the highest price to protect yourself. Okay, if you want to have that high price, but then we put that as a separate item, then we can say, okay, then if the price drops, we take the risk, or who takes the risk on that? So I think there are ways to sort of hedge, either as on the physical side. And the other thing is we'll see, the workforce, the scramble for talent right now. It's great having billions of dollars, but we have a lot of needs that we have on the human resource side as well, both private sector and you want to have good, capable, intelligent clients. So we have to make sure that we keep hiring, good staff on our side. And I know certainly for firms, the PMs, et cetera, the people who are really in charge of delivering the projects, it's important that for us to be able to deliver and keep our credibility, we have to make sure the firms working for us are giving us the A team and not sort of baiting and switching. So we're Eric is very diligent to make sure that we are getting from people what they bid, that we get the team that really is going to deliver. The executive level, this is all, it's all fine, but it's, the rubber meets the road in the project. Particularly every project has rough bumps on it. And that's where you really have a tight team that works really well with our team, so that we can work through those and make sure the project's successful.
Great. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Stephen checking in from Gannett Fleming, another long time member of the Alliance for Action. I want to say thanks a lot, Kevin. It's not only always a great idea. It's not always great to see you. I mean, it's not only always great to see you, but the information you're providing to us today is terrific. The job that you and your team at New Jersey Transit has done over the past 4 years is exemplary, and we're looking forward to continuing that effort. And as I've always said, if there's anything the Alliance for Action can do to assist that effort, it creates better opportunities for New Jersey's economy, better opportunities to protect New Jersey's environment, and better opportunities to create jobs for not only New Jersey Alliance for Action members, but all of New Jersey's residents, and business opportunities for all of our businesses. So again, thank you very, very much. I do want to say thank you to our sponsors. Penny, if you could bring that sponsor list up right now, but we do have a number of very loyal members of the Alliance for Action and very loyal sponsors of the Alliance for Action. Also with that, I want to say thank you to GPI. GPI is a nationally recognized engineering firm that has been working to better our communities by providing high quality engineering and construction services for over 50 years. M&J Engineering, innovative and state-of-the-art solutions. Parsons, our New York, New Jersey professionals work every day to transform the landscape and improve mobility in the region. PSE&G, we make things work for you. Tonio Burgos and Associates Incorporated, a leading strategic planning and lobbying firm building results-driven solutions for private and public sector clients. Van Cleef Engineering Associates, engineering with focus. Since 1972, Van Cleef delivers responsive, innovative, and cost-effective engineering solutions to our valued clients. And finally, Vollers, building for the future through long-term commitment, integrity, and excellence. So once again, thank you to Vollers, and thank you to all of our sponsors for making today possible. I want to put out another special thank you to the co-chairs of the Inside Scoop series. That is Cindy Norfleet, the managing director and COO of Van Cleef Engineering, and Dean Angelakos, the vice president for business development and government relations for Infinite Consulting Corporation. One more thank you before I talk about upcoming events that we'll be having in February for the Alliance for Action. When I put a big thank you out to our staff. We're talking about Chris Hartman, Bill Healy, Lynn Swalje, Penny Grasso, and Athena Xenios. A big thank you to you. We would not be anywhere without the extraordinary efforts by our Alliance for Action staff. It's very small, but very strong and feisty and able to get it all done. So thank you very much. February is going to be a very busy month for the Alliance for Action. If you're interested in joining us for any of our virtual events coming up in February, we're going to have on February 8th, Elizabethtown President and COO Christy McMullen is going to talk about the Elizabethtown Gas Capital Program. Our Somerset County chapter is going to be getting together on February 16th. We have a long list of really great speakers for that program. And then finally, we'll be wrapping up February on one of our most successful and one of our biggest events of the year, New Jersey's leading capital construction projects. We generally get 400 to 500 people to that event, even with doing a virtual event. We did it last year virtually, and we again had, I think, about 450 people there. We are going to be honoring a few of your projects, Kevin. New Jersey Transit is being recognized for a few of their projects for the great work that those projects are going to be doing to create jobs and improve the economy and protect the environment. And not only are we recognizing the projects themselves, we're recognizing the teams that work together to make those projects a reality and a big success. So, Kevin, I just want to say thank you one more time to you. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you over the years. It's great to call you a friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you again real soon. And I'm sure we'll be speaking again real soon as well. So with that,
thank you, Darren. I look forward to seeing everybody on here today, seeing in person the next go around. Look forward to see everybody in person soon. Thanks.
If you have any questions about the capital program or for the Alliance for Action, give us a call. We'll see you soon. Be well.
All right. Thanks all. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, Kevin.